So, welcome. My name is Chef Bryant Currie. I'm a faculty member. I'm a culinary arts professor here at ACC. And welcome to Black History Month Soul Food presentation. I love doing the soul food presentations. You know, I've been raised all my life eating soul food. and I tell people, you know, my first inclination of food, I was about 6 years old. And my grandmother was blind, I mean, literally blind from diabetes. And she was in the kitchen making bread. So as a 6-year-old, I know my grandmother's blind. I'm like, she's in the kitchen making bread? And her husband, my grandfather, just sitting in the chair, just not, I was amazed. I'm like, so I walk into the kitchen and I said, Grandma, you need some help? No, I don't need help, but come on in. I'm gonna show you how to make bread. Oh, you are? So she's blind. I learned how to make fresh homemade bread. I was in Omaha, Nebraska with my grandmother that was blind. And my other grandmother, on my mother's side, lived in Louisiana. And a lot of my family is from the low country of Louisiana. So a lot of what I learned, fried chitlins, fried tripe, and hog head cheese. I was gonna make hog head cheese for y'all, but I figured, I probably couldn't make enough because you probably want to eat it all up, right? No? HEB sells hog heads, you know that? Well, okay, maybe you didn't know that. If you ever see one, pick it up. But I love hog head cheese, and I remember she taught me how to make hog head cheese when I was probably 10 or 11 years old. So I wanted to talk to you guys and kind of show you some foods from a culture you probably have never heard of called Gullah. Gullah is a series of islands from South Carolina down to North Florida that is home to an African-American community that has not left their historical culture from Africa, okay? So the transatlantic slave trade really began in South Carolina in those Gullah Islands. If you're African-American, and you do your genealogy, you may find that you probably originated from South Carolina. That's probably where it started. Mine is. They say about 50% of all African Americans in the U.S. originated from South Carolina, from the Gullah Islands. The Gullah Islands in South Carolina, Sierra Leone, Africans from Sierra Leone, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, all came through the South Carolina area, right? But these particular group of people were on the islands. And so there was a point in time where plantation owners figured, we're not making a lot of money on these islands. And we're wide open to being attacked. So at one point, they just left. And they left all the slaves there. They told them, you're free, we're gone. And so what happened was, so they could stay free, they didn't leave those islands. They stayed there, and there is still a community in South Carolina from that historical background. I got a chance, I took my daughter when she was about 10 years old to Boone Plantation in South Carolina, and I kind of educated her about what the plantation looks like, and if you ever get a chance to do that, but the food is what's amazing, because what's amazing is they never left that culture from Africa on food. So I'm gonna do 3 dishes. Peanut butter jelly is not one of them. But if you want my peanut butter jelly recipe, we can talk, all right? But I'm gonna do a Hoppin John. And Hoppin John, a lot of people are not familiar. There's a lot of rice being grown in Africa. Africa is probably one of the largest rice producers in the world. And they actually call it African rice line on the west coast. Starting from Senegal, going all the way down to Ghana and Liberia. So in order to grow rice, you got to know how to farm rice. So when the slaves came from West Africa into the Americas, they were expert rice farmers. Expert. So they brought rice, and they brought an African version of rice, right? It's not grown anymore. You may find it in the store. It's called Carolina Gold Rice. Anybody seen? It's called. If you ever see Carolina Gold Rice, that is a hybrid between African and Chinese rice. Okay, because they do not grow African rice anymore, right? So the Asian rice market is kind of overtook the African rice market, right? In the United States, you're not going to find African rice other than Carolina. So they're bringing it back through Carolina Gold rice. So rice was a big thing. So Hoppin John was a rice that was made because also beans was big in South Carolina, right? They call them the three sisters: corn, beans, and squash. Everybody heard of the three sisters? Three sisters coming out of Carolina: corn, beans, and rice. So beans was also a big. So when the slaves saw, oh wow, beans here, we already know how to make rice. So they were putting the two together, right? In Africa, there's a dish called jollof rice, and there's many different types of jollof rice in Africa. Ghana's going to make it differently from Senegal. Senegal's going to make it different from Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone's going to make it different from Cote d'Ivoire. So they're all going to do different rice. But rice was a huge thing. So I thought Hoppin John would be great. Hoppin John is, most people see it with black-eyed peas. Originally, it was made with azuki beans, which is a small red kidney bean that was indicative to Africa. The azuki bean, you could probably still find them in HEB. You walk in HEB and see all these foods, you're like, what the heck is that? I've never seen nothing like that before. But when you study and you get into food, you'll see where those items come from. I'm also going to do something called chicken and okra, roast chicken with okra. One, because I like chicken and I like okra. So why not put the two together? No, really. But okra is also one of those crops that came with the slaves on the transatlantic slave trade. Okra, right? Its Swahili name is gumbo. So when the slaves came over, they kind of, the Creole liked how the newly slaves were using okra to thicken foods, and the Creole were like, wow, we can use this to make our gumbo. We don't have to use that sassafras leaf anymore. Gumbo is going to be, okra is great for our little dish, and so you got your Creole gumbo. So I wanted to kind of show you some okra, kind of roast the okra with some chicken. And then we're going to do a little dessert. Dalal made the dessert, y'all. She's really good at desserts. Pecan and brown sugar cookies, brownies. The Gullahs really like brown sugar. It's a very easy dish to make. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna make that. First thing I want to do is gonna make the Hoppin John. All right, let's get going. So I got some rice here. All right, and what I have in this pot, and I had to get it started because the beans have to be soaked overnight. We know that, right? They're dried beans. So you soak them overnight, and basically you're gonna make what we call a, in soul food we call it pot liquor, not L-I-Q-U-R, not that kind of liquor. Don't get me in trouble, not that kind of liquor. It's a different kind of liquor, all right? It's a liquor that you use to make greens, but I also use, it's usually that's to turn for collard greens, but I'm using it for in relation to these beans. So can you see the beans? Can you see the pot? Huh? It's on the side, so you can see it here? You can't see inside it? All right, so these beans right here, they're red beans, all right? Also called azuki beans. You can also use cow peas. Cow peas is what's usually used. So all I have in this pot is water. I got a turkey wing and some onion that I quartered, bay leaf, and some seasoning. I'm building my pot liquor. I'm building the flavor. And it's important to build that flavor from these beans perspective. And we're gonna get them tender. You're gonna cook that until it gets tender. Now, there is a ratio for rice. You guys know the ratio, how to make rice? Who knows how to make rice pilaf here? Who knows that? 2 to 1, right. 2 to 1, unless it's brown rice. Then it's 2.5 to 1, because you got to get through that bran, right? So this is not brown rice, this is white rice, so basically 2 to 1. So what I'm gonna do is, what we have to do now that I've got my pot liquor ready, I'm going to get another pot. What was all that? Everybody said Eureka. Wow, oh, now, oh, good. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to build another layer of flavor with the rice. This is very important, right? Is the rice. That's because we're making what we call a rice pilaf, and it's called a pilaf method because the pilaf method is you got to saute that rice first. So right, we're going what we call parching the rice. So I got some palm oil. And it's weird because HEB doesn't sell palm oil. I couldn't imagine why. Why would they not have palm oil? But it's not sustainable either, all right? Palm oil is very indicative to Africa, West Africa and Central Africa. Most foods in Africa, India, is going to be using palm oil, which is made from the kernel. It's not palm kernel oil. This is palm oil, so it's used from the whole fruit of that palm tree. And again, it originates from Africa. It's indicative of African food. It has a nice red tinge to it, and it tastes really wonderful. It's going to have a different flavor to it. So I'm going to put a little palm oil in here. I'm going to put I'll do my rice later. I'm going to put my aromatics in here. And a lot of this aromatic is kind of similar to the Trinity that the Creoles use. Okay? Because, you know, the Creoles are also from Africa. So a lot of Creole cuisine comes from Africa. And so the techniques that they use, I got some bell peppers, onions, celery, okay? And then we put some scallions in there just a little bit. All right, so got my scallions in there. Go ahead and put a little bit of garlic in there as well. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to put my rice in there. So now I'm building my flavor with my rice and my aromatics. You know what an aromatic is? Aromatics, peppers, bell peppers, onion, garlic. Those are the things that you're going to smell that's going to really add to the flavor of your dish, right? So I'm going to put my aromatics in there, and it looks good. So once I saute it, I'm going to put this in my pan. Now I got my rice in my pan here. And I'm going to take my beans, my cooked beans, with the liquid. Now, I've only been doing this, just, you know, a short amount of time, over 30 years. I know by sight how much liquid I need to this rice. But I still use my finger method. I don't know if you guys know the finger method for rice pilaf. Who knows the finger method? You insert your finger in there, and my first line is exactly 1 inch. And it needs to be 1 inch from the top of the rice to the top of the liquid. It works every time. I'm telling you, if you see a chef in the kitchen measuring water, measuring rice, run out of that restaurant, because they don't know how to make rice. I'm telling you, I've been doing this for years, and I know exactly how. It has never failed me. So I'm going to put the liquid from my beans. I'm going to put my beans in there as well. Now this is for demo purposes, because, you know. So I'm going to put aluminum foil on this, okay? I'm going to put it in the oven for about 30 minutes, right? Then let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then fluff it. And then when you fluff it, it comes out of the oven. Is it over here? That's hot, y'all. Yeah, I know, huh? See how quickly that is? And then your rice comes and looks like that. So we want to take some garnish. I'm going to put some green onions on there. Oh, don't forget your herbs. I forgot to tell you. When you put herbs in there, you kind of tie them up. Fresh thyme, rosemary, oregano, parsley. Tie it up. Put it in a pot, okay? In French, there's a couple of things. We got a sachet. A sachet is wrapping it in cheesecloth. A bouquet garni is wrapping it in leaves. This is actually called a fagot, F-A-G-O-T. When you take herbs and you wrap it and you put it in, and that way it's easy to retrieve. Because if you don't tie it, it's going to fall all over the place, and you got to be picky. You got thyme leaves all in your mouth. You don't want that, okay? So, and we also have the turkey. So the turkey that I cooked, I take the turkey out, and what I'll do is I'll just take the turkey meat apart, right? And you can use ham hock, and I can tell you, traditionally, ham hock was used because a lot of the pig, a lot of the things from the hogs, the choice cuts were not given to the slaves, so they had to make use of the other parts that were not used. And a lot of the traditionally African slaves were vegetarian because they could not get a lot of meat, so they were using a lot of these meats as flavor. So they would smoke the ham hock, and they learned the smoking techniques from the Indians. The Indians taught them how to smoke meats. So they were smoking these ham hocks, and they were using them as flavor. So obviously, you got the ham hock in there, you can pull some of that flavor out, some of that meat. So if you're a quick draw McGraw, you can get all the meat. That's what I did in my family. I had 2 brothers and a sister, and I was the quickest. I got that ham hock very quick. That was the first thing I got. So we have Hoppin John. So what I want you guys to do, we got some Hoppin John back there. Guys, get a plate. I want you to taste and tell me what you think while I get set up for the next one. All right. So I had a couple of questions. One about my palm oil, and I did get this from the Nigerian market on Lamar, and it's. I thought HEB sold this, but I guess not. So Asian markets may sell it, right? Because it's very prevalent in a lot of African cuisine. It's very, very prevalent. But it is high in saturated fat. I tell you after you eat it. But you see, I didn't use too much. I just used a little bit, right? But in Africa, they're deep frying this. I mean, they'll deep fry it twice. But there isn't a large prevalence of heart disease in Africa. But here in America, it is. yeah, right. They're working a lot. So, and I use that. And I do use my seasonings. I like to do a seasoning blend. So I mix my own seasoning blends. And so I did use that in there as well. So what we're going to make now, I want to do what we call okra roasted chicken. Okay? So we're going to roast the chicken. Okra roast. So you guys understand what roasting means, right? So when I use that word, if I say a word that you don't understand, just stop me. Roasting is a specific technique. So I tell people, be careful when you're washing chicken, right? And but in African cuisine, they all wash the chicken and they'll douse it in a little lime juice. Okay? As a chef, I know I know what lime juice is, citric acid. I know what chicken is, right? For me, it's a flavor thing. It may be a cleaning thing for African, but and as the chef was explaining, in the United States, chicken that's being processed goes through a process, right? Now, if I'm raising chickens in my backyard, and I got my Uncle Larry coming over doing some slaughtering, I get the lime juice. I get the washing. I understand all that. But again, if I'm buying it from a grocery store, this is really just a flavoring. So what I do is I'll flavor it with my lime juice, and I put my palm oil on there, and put a little bit of seasoning on there as well. And you could use any of your blended seasoning salt, or you could ask me how you can get one of mine. I also have cinnamon, mace, and nutmeg. So there's an African seasoning blend that uses seasoning, and it puts most of my seasoning blend has what is in that blend, but what I don't have is the cinnamon, mace, and nutmeg. So just put a pinch of cinnamon. That's mace. Allspice, because I can tell that's allspice. Oh, that's allspice. And cinnamon. Okay? And it's almost like you're making a curry spice. Because curry spice is just basically a mixture of different spices. And there's different types of curry spice, right? There's a Jamaican curry. There's an Indian curry, right? There's an Asian curry. The Jamaicans actually use what they call it, jerk. So that's their version of it, right? So what I want to do here is some oil. I'm going to marinate my chicken. Let me put a little bit more seasoning on here. This ain't gonna cook in time for y'all to eat, so I'll take this. I'll eat this. Y'all gonna be gone by the time I eat this one. Y'all gonna be gone. So, yeah, pour some in there. So what I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and fry my chicken, and all I wanna do is just mark it. That's good, you good. Thanks. And what I wanna do is I just want to sear it. I'm going skin side down, right? Because the skin side down is gonna be my presentation side. It's the side the customers are gonna see, yep. Yes, because the palm oil, because when I said it has highly saturated fat, people look at me like I was crazy. They're like, I ain't eating that. So I'm using vegetable oil, y'all. But you don't really, again, I'm using that palm oil as a flavoring. Because I can get a better oil that's healthier, right? And I can just add that as a little flavor, and that's why I put it on the chicken. And so all I want to do is just brown it. And once I brown it, you can turn them over if you like. Once I get them browned, I'm going to put them in my pan. You don't have to fully cook it. Now, I'm not making fried chicken. I'm searing the chicken. Because remember I talked about, when I was talking to you about roasting. Roasting is you want to take a piece of your protein and you want to brown it. You want to brown it in an oil. But this is a dry cooking method, right? You guys understand what I mean by dry cooking method? Well, there isn't a difference. There's a difference between searing and deep frying. I'm not deep frying, I'm searing it. Got a little bit of fat. I just want to caramelize. I want to transform that chicken, what they call a Maillard reaction. I want to transform it. I want to get it crispy. I want to render it a little bit so I can do what I need to do next. So, and if you see, I got some bits in the bottom there. I can add more oil to it if I want. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my aromatics. So the first thing I need to do is I need to cut my bacon here. And so this bacon was made by our students in Garde Manger here. Chef Wagner students made this bacon. So I'm going to cut it into lardons, L-A-R-D-O-N-S. And I am going to render. Render means I'm going to cook the bacon, crisp up the fat, render that oil that's out of the fat. Now I'm going to take my celery and chop it. And be careful when you're chopping so you don't cut your fingers, okay? We don't want you to cut your fingers. So, I'm going to render that. I got my okra here. And what I do with my okra, I'm going to take that top off because that's very fibrous on the top. I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to cut that little tip off. Okay? So I'm going to cut it, flip it around. All right? Good? All right? I've cut a few things in my life. And I've learned when I kept cutting my fingers, I need to figure out how to do this. So I got my okra, got my rendered bacon in there. I'm going to put my okra in. I really want to get my okra cooked in that fat because that's going to help tie down that mucilaginous. They call it mucilaginous. They got a name for slimy okra. There's an actual name for it. It ain't slimy, but there's a name. So I'm going to go ahead and put my Trinity in there, my aromatics. Ooh, I forgot my onion. I got an onion here. Gotta be careful when you're cutting. All right. Just don't cut your fingers. I tell my students the knife doesn't know the difference between your finger and that onion. It's gonna cut both of them very, very cleanly. So I'm going to saute my okra. And I do want to go ahead and season it. I'm gonna use my poultry seasoning, because I used my beef seasoning on the chicken. Oh, forgot the garlic. A little bit. Just a little bit. And when you're cooking this at home, you have to do this. No, you don't have to. Y'all look at me like, I ain't doing that. Yeah, you have to do this. You have to do this at home. Okay? So once you get this roasted, I don't know, can you guys see inside the pot? Then all I'm gonna do is just put it on top. Shake it. Shake, shake, shake. Kind of move it around. I want to expose the chicken. The recipe says put a little bit of stock in there. You can do that as well. Okay, I don't have my stock up here. I'm seeing if I got all my stuff in there. That's good. I got my pork in there. It looks good. A little more seasoning on there. Thank you, Dana. Just put a little bit of stock. And I'm gonna tell you, and we were talking about roasting. If I was in France, they'd kick me out of France, because that's not roasting. Actually, roasting is a dry cooking method, no liquid. Traditional classical roasting. This is actually called a poêler, P-O-E-L-E-R. Poêler is a wet roast, whereas you roast first, and then you add a liquid, and then you cover it, and it's called poêler, right? Because there's 7 cooking techniques. It's the one cooking techniques a lot of people don't, that you use, that you do at home, you didn't know you were doing it, right? So if I was roasting, I wouldn't put the liquid, but I want to put the liquid in because I want a little bit of sauce to produce in this chicken. So I'm gonna put this chicken in the oven. And me and the students are gonna eat that because y'all not gonna be here in time for it to be done. When you've checked it and it comes out of the oven, it's going to look like that. You take a little bit of parsley or some scallions, garnish it, and it is done. So you take it. So let me show you guys, because take one piece of chicken and a little bit of the okra. See if you can get some of that bacon on there. Oh, it's 2 pieces. That'll be good. And it is served. So you see it created a little bit of juice. Goes well with that Hoppin John. You need a little juice with that rice, that chicken, that okra. So I want you guys to try the chicken and tell me what you think. So I get ready for dessert. All right. All right, so how was that chicken? Huh? Huh? It's no more? Oh, I got my pan in the oven. It's ready. I don't know if y'all deserve the pan I just made here. Daryl, I got some more. Who did not get chicken? Don't be lying. Don't be raise your hand. I didn't get none. I got bones all on your plate. All right. So let's start with dessert, guys. So I found a recipe on called Gullah, Pecan, Sugar Chewies. And, you know, classically, it's no different than a blondie, okay? Basically, it's what it is. But it was one of those desserts. You got a chance to get a treat. Brown sugar. Sugar is a well-known crop out there on the East Coast and in the South. Sugar is a well-known crop. Pecans, we know, are also in the South, right? You put the two together, brown sugar, pecans, not a problem, okay? This is a very simple dessert. Basically, what we want to do is, I want to melt my butter. And I'm going to take my sheet pan, and I take some softened butter, and just put it in the sheet pan, and just kind of butter your pan. If you want to be healthy, I don't know why you want to be eating brown sugar. Just you can spray the pan, right? You don't have to put butter in it. But Why would you want to do such a thing? Put butter in there. All right, so we're gonna get my whisk. So what we want to do is we want to melt that butter. And we want to melt the butter, but we want to go ahead and put our brown sugar in there as well. And you can actually do a variation that's called brown butter blondies. So if I take this butter and I brown it, it gets a toasty flavor. It totally changes the complexities of this dessert, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to put my brown sugar in there and melt my brown sugar. We'll put my vanilla extract and almond extract. And I know when you put this extract in there, guys, it almost tastes like there's alcohol in there. Well, you know, there's a lot of alcohol in extract. That's how they make it. I know some of y'all like, I don't drink. Well, you use extract, you drinking. Because extract is almost all alcohol. You know how to make, you can make homemade vanilla extract. Take some cheap bottle of vodka, open up, split a vanilla bean, throw it in there, close it up, let it sit there for about 30 days, you got vanilla extract. That's it. Didn't know that, did you? See? I give that information to you for free. You get that for free, okay? Now everybody gonna go home to the liquor store, get some vodka. Vanilla beans are very expensive though. They're very, almost like 10 bucks a pod. You know, they're very expensive. All right, so I'm gonna take some baking powder. Dalal, she made this for me, so I'm like, Dalal, tell me what I do. Okay, so baking powder. I'm going to mix that baking powder in there. I'm going to take my eggs. I'm going to take this off the heat. So I made it like a little caramel. I'm going to put it 1 egg at a time. Probably want this to cool down. But I'm putting the egg in this, and this was pretty hot, but you got to keep it stirring. Okay, you want to keep stirring so as not to cook the eggs. I'm not making scrambled eggs and butter and brown sugar, although that may be a good dish, right? So put that brown sugar, put the egg in there. Now what I want to do is I want to fold the flour and the baking powder into my brown sugar. Keep it in the pan. Then I'll go ahead and fold my pecans in there. If you don't want pecans in there, don't do it. If you really want to use alcohol, you can put amaretto in here, because amaretto is an almond liqueur. Put a chambord, which is a raspberry liqueur, if you want. You put a tequila in there if you want. Some Mad Dog, some Cisco, whatever you want. It's up to you. All right, so we just put this in our pan. Make sure I get all of that out. Uh-oh. Then we're going to spread this out. My pan's probably a little bit too big. You want to use an 8-inch pan. So I'm just going to spread only half of it. And it's weird because it's going to cook only on that half, which is fine. I'm going to spread this out. Because the pans we have in this school is big pans. So I'm going to put this in the oven. You're going to cook that? How long do I cook that till? Till it's done. Look at that. You guys are learning. You are learning. That's right. You cook it till it's done, right? But it's not like a cake. So it's going to be very soft, right? Because you know, when you taste the cake, it's a bounce back. That's not really what this blondie or this chewy is doing. It really need to be chewy, okay? So take it out, take a piece out, taste it. If you think it needs a little bit more, put it right back in. And we have some people here who just could not wait. They're eating it right now. So I'm done with the demo. We took a little trip to Gullah. I appreciate you very much. And while you're eating the dessert, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you. Have a great day.